It's a wild world out there, but some worlds are even wilder. Hi, I'm Tyler Hapney, and you're listening to Dungeons and Dystopias. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Dungeons and Dystopias. I am your host, Tyler Hapney. I have GM'd over 200 games of Cyberpunk RED and Dungeons and Dragons combined. So I am here to talk a little bit to you for the next 20 or so minutes. So today we are going to be discussing Cybermas or REDmas or Gunmas, depending on exactly what year you're talking about. Because today we're talking about the Cyberpunk RED DLC, the most recent one that just came out. And we're talking about that today. Because it is going to be Christmas when this podcast releases. So this is going to be kind of a sort of a Christmas special. And I was thinking for a while on what kind of Christmas episodes I could do for Dungeons and Dragons. But really, at the end of the day, Cyberpunk has a Christmas DLC, and this one is extremely juicy when it comes to the sort of options that come to players because of it. And honestly, I think this one, combined with the other two Christmas DLCs, which I will also discuss, I think this one is probably, the one I'm most excited about. So just to give you guys a little bit of warm-up, this all started a few years ago with the 12 Days of REDmas. And that is a free DLC. You can go and Google that and it'll come up. So, Cyberpunk RED, 12 Days of REDmas. That's GEARMAS. But it's basically what the entire thing is. The bit that they have going is that there's this cyberpunk Santa Claus. Maybe he's Cyber Psycho. Who knows? But every year, at the same time, somehow he uploads all these schematics and different things to the net in Short Circuit, which is a popular netrunner bar in Cyberpunk. So basically what that translates out to is Artal Saurian will translate a bunch of old stuff from the street from like Cyberpunk 2020 and they'll adapt it into Cyberpunk RED. And they just have so many cool options. Not gonna lie, the 12 Days of REDmas gave us a lot of really interesting stuff that I personally use a lot. For one, the Cyber Scanner, which allows someone to scan somebody and get a readout of their installed cyberware. So I think that's generally a pretty interesting option to have, especially for like security purposes. And it'll tell people if there's like specialized cyberware or something. It'll come up as an error, so they have to figure out what that is. Aside from that, we also got the ion cuffs. So any cyber limb that is cuffed by an ion cuff becomes inoperable, which is really, really helpful for cupping people who have like a grenade launcher and an SMG and a knife in their arm. Yeah, could be really helpful there. This Honda Metro car, it's like a Honda Civic. It is the Honda Civic of the Cyberpunk universe. There's only 1,000 eddies to get one of those, but seems pretty cool. Seems like a pretty nice option, especially for players who aren't nomads but still want a car. So anyways, other than that, that's a couple of the highlights from REDmas. Next up, the next year, last year, came Cybermas. And Cybermas comes not with gear, believe it or not, but cyberware. And this one, I use even more of this stuff. For one, the chain rip replaces your arm with a chainsaw. That's pretty cool. That's like some Ash Williams stuff. I'm into that. I've had multiple characters come in with chain rips. It's always a good time. Other than that, another fun one is the Death Trance. It's a chip that you activate in your chipware that imitates you being dead. Even your vital signs plummet. So, anyone who isn't skilled enough to figure out it's a death trance will be like, hey, this guy's dead. And they'll probably take you off to the morgue or something. We've used that in a morgue heist where we had somebody pretend to be dead, and then they were shipped down into the morgue where they deactivated their death trance and got to work. Very cool, very fun. Another last big one I want to talk about on this one is the Cybermatrix Gang Jazzler, which is a sort of like tiny little needle that has a sort of electric shock at the end of it. So when you have someone grappled or you're grabbing them, you can stick that needle into their head and it'll shock their brain and knock them out. Like instantly if they fail or resist torture and drugs check. It has a rechargeable battery that takes about an hour. So unless you replace the pack, you have to wait between hours for the shock. But, in a pinch, that can save your life. That can be really crucial. So I personally love all of the different cyberware that came with the 12 Days of REDmas. Once again, completely free. You can just Google that. They release free DLC every month, and this is part of that. Last one, and the one we're going to be actually talking about mostly today, is the 12 Days of REDmas, which is the December 2024. And I think has come with a bunch of really interesting things, which of course they all have. But this one has, this one's the main topic here. So, so the most interesting thing about this one is rather than, so the last few have started with like a Christmas poem or something, or just a little, thing about Santa Claus. This one, very interesting, I think, actually goes in with, starts with a story. And it's a story about, sort of the competition between Santa, Santa, which that is technically his name. There's a period between every letter, so it's Santa, but we'll just call him Santa. Santa and Krampus are competing for who to be the Cyberpunk Christmas mascot. And man, does it go hard. Here, I'm going to read a passage. In the darkness, 500 meters away, at the other end of a custom red and white spiral-fluted barrel, a man with a voluminous white beard chambered an experimental 50 BMG EMP round he had purchased from a tech known to the street as Never Naughty Ned. Each bullet ran a jolly $50, but the big man had enough in his sack to afford it. His cyber eyes flashed blue with night vision, bringing his target into focus at the other end of his ACOG scope. He took 2 deep breaths, hyper-oxygenating, growling with each exhale. Ho, ho. He pulled the trigger. Ho. See, that's fun. There's a lot more to it, but I'd personally suggest giving it a good read. It's only about not even a page. So, it takes maybe about 2 minutes to read. Fun little look into Night City, the Night City Christmas culture. Anyways, other than that, let's get into what we've got here. So the first thing that comes onto the page is the Centurion Essentials Thermal Dagger, which is a knife. It is a medium melee weapon, which means it does 2d6 per hit and have stopping power for enemies. If it hits, it'll light people on fire. Straight up, that's what it does. we actually don't. We do have a sort of weapon that does this, but we don't actually have any weapons yet, or we didn't until now. That a melee weapon that set enemies on fire. So now we do have one. It's €1,000. Excellent quality and exotic, which means I don't think you can put I don't think there are like melee weapon modifications to customize, but yeah, I mean there's a lot of things that go into it. Excellent quality means you're attacking with a +1, so that's always good. The next up is the Cyber Dude Smart Glove. It is a smart glove that comes pre-installed with a subdermal grip and 2 additional option slots for cyber arm or cyber limb options, which is interesting to me because this is a cyber glove. And we've already had the cyber fingers out already. So them specifying cyber arm or cyber limb is curious. It's curious to me because now I'm wondering, could I put a pop-up SMG on this smart glove? And if so, that'd be great. Putting on a smart glove or taking one off is an action. It is the same cost as just whatever tech you'd want to buy if you're trying to install a cyber limb option. So, no discount because it's going into a glove. Yeah, here we go. Any non-finger-based cyber options stored in a cyber hand is being worn over. They're inaccessible while the smart glove is being worn. However, and here's where we get interesting here. The finger-based cyberware, the cyber fingers I just mentioned, they can be used normally. Cannot conceal this glove unless, I don't know, you put it in your bag or something. Next up, high-density bulletproof shield. So the typical bulletproof shield in Cyberpunk Red has 10 HP. This one has 15. Yep, that's pretty much it. Allows you... So usually, we've found, it depends on what you're getting hit with, but in Cyberpunk Red, the typical bulletproof shield will take 1 good hit. Unless you're fighting someone with like a heavy pistol or lower. But... I think 15 HP will make it take 2 good hits. So already just a better version of the bulletproof shield for double the price. It's $200. Light metal gear. This is huge. I don't know why we have this, but man, is it huge, and my players are going to hate me for it. So the light metal gear is stopping power 16, and usually when you have stopping power that high, you come with some penalties, and of course this one has its own. For instance, it gives you a -3 to your reflex, dexterity, and move rolls, which is pretty rough, unless you have an 8 in all those stats and you've built up all your skills over time. Now, what is really interesting to me is there is no restriction on tech upgrading this. So theoretically, a player could come to me and say, hey, I want to tech upgrade my light metal gear. And what I want to do is I want to make that -3 into a -2. Which, by the way, the next lowest one that gives you a -2 is 13 stopping power. So this is an extra 3 stopping power as if you upgrade this light metal gear. Yeah, and 3 stopping power is huge. Like, this is huge. Like, I don't know. Light metal gear, still haven't used it yet. Fully plan to. The long-barreled pistol is just a very heavy pistol that has a specialized range table for taking longer shots. This pistol is built more for 0 to 25 yards. The typical pistol goes just about up to 12 yards, and then it starts getting kind of harder to hit. This one takes up to 25. Cool. The Pursuit Security ETAC Rapid Responder. It is a poor quality medium pistol. Comes equipped with an installed extended magazine and a stun bayonet. You can choose to fire in burst mode on this thing. You expend 3 bullets at once, and dealing damage as if it were a heavy pistol. And here's the fun kicker part. Any non-armor-piercing ammunition you fire while in burst mode is counted as armor-piercing ammunition. As long as if there are fewer than 3 bullets left in the magazine, the gun will automatically disable burst mode, which is cool. The stun bayonet, as previously attached, is a bayonet, but it has the stun property, which means it cannot take someone below 1 HP and unconscious. So if it puts them to 0 HP, it actually puts them at 1, and there they go down. The quick change faceplate mount. You change your face. Get a bunch of cyber faces and change them at will with the quick change faceplate mount. Perfect for assassins, trendy executives, and a whole bunch of other things. I notice I led with assassins because really, honestly, that's who's going to get use out of this. Next item, the Rockland Augmentix Quick Digits. This is a fun little thing. It gives you, it's like quick fingers. Gives you a +1 to checks with conceal reveal object, contortionist, first aid, forgery, language, sign language, paramedic, pick lock, and pickpocket. Fun times. It just makes your fingers quick. The Skydrivers. Now, this is the one I'm kind of most excited for personally. The Skydrivers are intense. They are a pair of cyber legs. They must be installed together and count as a single item for the purposes of cost and humanity lost. So that's $1,000 for both of these legs, which is pretty great. Each of them comes with jump boosters pre-installed, so your character can jump a lot easier without any movement penalty at all. The jump boosters cannot be removed. So if you're getting these legs, you are going to be jumping a lot. So the big thing about these things is when you move at least 4 meters per turn, and then make a brawling or martial arts attack against cover, not someone, but just cover, like a wall or a door or something, you deal an extra 3d6 damage, which is intense because if you have a linear frame, which is just bulking your character's body up to intense limits, you're dealing 4d6 on your brawling or martial arts attacks, which is already insane in Cyberpunk, but adding 3d6 on top of that, you were dealing 7d6 to whatever cover or wall or whatever you're going after, which means you are the Kool-Aid man. I cannot stress that enough. You should be kicking holes into brick walls if you have these legs. I insist. You should be jumping 2 to 3 floors and then kicking down the brick wall in order to get to your enemy. That is so cool. Love the Skydrivers. Love them very much. The Smart Ears. Smart Ears come with a non-removable radio scanner and music player with 2 additional cyber audio option slots for whatever you want. I personally choose amplified hearing and probably radar. Smart Ears give you, just cool little smart ears. The Cyber Spine. The Cyber Spine is EMP hardened, which means it does not take... it does not lose its effects from an EMP or a microwave or weapon. Beyond that, it makes you immune to the spinal injury, critical injury, which is one of the worst ones you can get. So pretty big news on that one. You can also mount a cyber snake to it. We have 2 final options here. So the Zetatech Cyberconductor. My God, this changes the game again for netrunners. So usually when you were a netrunner, you only have one cyber deck you can really choose from. And that has a bunch of I think 7 or 8 programs loaded onto it. So, you've got kind of a limited selection. The Cyberconductor allows you to connect up to 3 cyber decks together, basically. And while you're jacked in to whatever network, you can, as an action, swap between cyber decks. It'll eliminate whatever programs you've got on the field from your previous cyber deck, but you can completely swap your set of programs for whatever situation you might be in. It only takes a couple of damage straight to your HP, 3 damage exactly. However, think about that. If you enter a network and you see what's ahead of you is maybe a pretty large network, but you figure you might run into another netrunner, you could have an anti-netrunner deck, a regular netrunning deck, and then maybe a support netrun deck for defense or whatever. And you could swap between these while you're sort of free in this network. I don't know. It's super cool. And then the last item is that, but it's integrated into your cyber arm. And this one requires a full body conversion. What that means is your whole body is cyberware, except for pretty much your brain. You are a robot, essentially. Full board conversion characters, it costs so much money to get one of these. But I'd argue, usually pretty worth it. if you want to become a tank in whatever respective field. And this field could very well be net running, because the thing about this is they do not take the damage when switching between cyber decks. It's pretty crazy. They can just do that for free. So that is REDmas. This year, I think we've all been very good, because Artel Saurian has given us some amazing gifts that I will be sure to be tormenting my players with. Now, we are going to end this episode. Usually I alternate between D&D monsters and Cyberpunk monsters, but today, since we're talking about Cyberpunk, we are going to go back into metaphorical monsters of the week. Right, so today's metaphorical monster of the week that we're going to be talking about is Continental Brands. So I've had a lot of Continental Brand stuff going on in my own personal campaign. So Continental Brands is a food company. They're like Nestle, which, for those of you who are in the know, are already you're strapping in. So one thing Continental Brands likes to do, and this is sort of their business motto, which we'll get to their history in a second, but their business motto is basically this: they will set up a convenience store called an Oasis somewhere in a neighborhood, probably one that's not doing too great. Then what they're going to do is they are going to reward the neighborhood who uses their Oasis constantly. So, if your neighborhood is, a lot of people are using the Oasis, giving Continental a lot of money, they might find the roads have improved, or they might find they're living pretty nice. Not necessarily, but they're not being harassed or harangued by gangs of individuals. Now, for the neighborhoods that don't buy Continental Brands, it's a different story. For neighborhoods that reject Oases or seem to sort of stray away from shopping there, they find things get worse. Strangely, gangs move in, the roads are getting bad, and all their favorite other businesses are going out of business, or maybe experiencing sabotage. That's Continental Brands. Continental Brands started as a subsidiary of Petrochem, but they pretty much just sort of separated one day and took over a bunch of old Petrochem gas station facilities and turned them into Oases, and that's how they got their start. I have used Continental Brands to pretty great use in my Cyberpunk Red thing. I've currently got an ongoing storyline between Continental Brands, who are utilizing a local Las Vegas mob, and the Tiger Claws, who are defending Kabuki in the interest of the Japanese community in Night City. And this has come to a head in the Continental Brands has set up an Oasis in Kabuki, and they've started going after Japanese vendors and other people who are in that district to try to sort of run their food businesses out of town. And they're utilizing the mob to do that. And yeah, the Tiger Claws, as the protectors of that community in Night City, they're pretty angry. So there's a large-scale gang war going down in Kabuki between Continental Brands and the mobsters that they're utilizing, and the Tiger Claws and the sort of different Japanese companies that are backing them. Nikola particularly, who are the ones who are getting hit by Oasis the hardest. Kuroshi, stuff like that. So that is Continental Brands. Once again, not a great company. None of these companies are. Not a single one. Maybe Netwatch, but other than that, they're all terrible, and that's why we love them. So as for now, that'll be it for us. Thank you so much for listening to Dungeons and Dystopias, and I hope you come and listen next week. Thank you so much.